What's up, everybody? Welcome for joining. Just getting started. Just a short live today. A little bit of, instead of talking about issues, so many of the problems, let's do a little bit of inspiration and letting people know that we can change things, because I don't think people realize that things can be changed. So I got some background music going on. Thanks for everybody for joining on IG. What's up, Jay? Hello from Cali. Good to see you. Guitars are me, and so forth. And we're letting this just getting started. It's going to be a very short live today, 15-20 minutes. Somebody sent me something this morning, which I think we all could use a little bit of inspiration, knowing that our current society is going to such shit. But with that said, there are things we can do. And there's one thing that we can do. And I'm going to drive it home today very clearly to give some people, and not just me, a little movie clip. I think everyone needs to see it this morning. Obviously, it's Friday afternoon. I'm late to the normal lives. I typically do lives at 1 p.m. Eastern time, but I'm about an hour late. So my apologies. Long Island, New York. Well, what's up, everybody? And we're getting started, and we're broadcasting both live on IG and TikTok and also on Instagram. So we got the trifecta going. Please remember to hit the follow button and stick around just for a few minutes, because we're going to make the show, I think, interesting, or at least I hope so. But I'm just waiting for our social overlords to get the message out that we're live and that we're getting more people in the room, and that we're going to have a little bit of what I hope should be a little bit inspiring, because I know so many people are frustrated about what's happening. This has been a tough week. You got to be really losing your mind or just really sick in the head, unfortunately, if you haven't realized how the world, how our country, how our government is not abiding by the rule of law. It's really obviously pretty depressing. So with that sort of all that news about what happened in Venezuela, what's happened in Minnesota, what's happening, the threats about Greenland and the possible, destruction of NATO dissolving if the United States was ever to move on NATO. And what am I missing? What else? I mean, there's so many things that happened this week. And obviously the shooting with ICE about killing an American citizen, and just, our law enforcement that is covering their face as usual. And, it's hard not to get depressed about what's happening. But as I always do on these shows, it's not about just talking about the problems and just complaining and bitching about the problems. There has to be a solution. I promote it all the time. It's up on the screen for those of you that are on TikTok, and finally we have more people joining, which is awesome. So I'm going to run an inspirational clip a few times coming up, and then we're going to talk about it, because people, this was sent to me by someone this morning, and it made my day a little bit, because it realized that we all talked about the problems, and I try and talk about the solutions, but I don't think we realize how impactful we all can be and how much we can change our lives. We just think that everything is all bad. It's all bad, but it doesn't have to be bad. It could be good. It just requires us to take our heads out of the sand and realize and unite behind something. And I'm not talking about just anyone, this uniting for not just ourselves, meaning all Americans, but the entire world. Because what's happening in our government right now, with the amount of corruption and the amount of influence, the tearing down of the entire rules-based world order, it's really beyond sad. It's highly depressing, as we know. So I'm going to play this clip now that we have a few people in here. I'll play it a few times so people understand what we can actually do about it. And as I have that up on the screen as well. So and everybody should be able to hear this no matter where you're listening to this. So just the audio alone should be inspiring enough. So let's play it for the very first time on this short live today, and I'll be back probably later, and pay attention to Robin Williams and what he has to say. Actually, I need to change the speaker so that everybody can hear this. Give me one moment. Okay. So let's play the clip for a little bit of inspiration this morning.
Life, the gift of life, the freedom of life, the wonderment of life.
We've got to tell everybody. We've got to remind them. We've got to remind them how good it is.
How good what is, Leonard?
Read the newspaper. What's it say? All bad. It's all bad. People have forgotten what life is all about. They've forgotten what it is to be alive. They need to be reminded. They need to be reminded about what they have and what they can lose. And what I feel is the joy of life, the gift of life, the freedom of life, the wonderment of life. We've got to tell everybody. We've got to remind them. We've got to remind them how good it is.
How good what is, Leonard?
Read the newspaper. What's it say? All bad. It's all bad. People have forgotten what life is all about. They've forgotten what it is to be alive. They need to be reminded. They need to be reminded about what they have and what they can lose. And what I feel is the joy of life, the gift of life, the freedom of life, the wonderment of life.
All right. I wish, I can just keep playing that in the background. So people that made my day. I don't know about you. That was Awakenings with Robin Williams and failing me the names, but obviously I wish I can speak that inspirational to people. I can't, and obviously I don't have the music in the background either, but people need to realize everything that's happening. We may not be able to change it forever, but we can change it soon if we act and we come together, because everything that's happening in our world is being impacted by the corruption, by various forces, and we all know it. So this is what the solution is. And I'll play that clip here and there. I'm only going to be online for about 15 minutes today. So everyone is looking around the world. Everyone, we are looked at right now as becoming one of the enemies, one of the evil empires. But make no mistake about it, people around the world are hoping, praying that Americans, United States citizens, stand up and push back against what's happening. This is not hyperbole. Literally, people around the world, they are disliking, because America is not, meaning our population. Everyone wants to blame Congress. Yes, Congress is not standing up. There are representatives, but the Republican Party has subjugated themselves to Trump. So if Congress is not going to do it, then it has to be the United States citizens. That is the whole point of being a democratic republic. In a democratic republic, it's we the people that control all the power, that have the ultimate authority. But we can't subjugate ourselves just like Congress is doing. Who are we looking to? Who are you looking for? Some magic, some guy, some person to come out of nowhere? Some inspirational leader that's going to change everything for us? That's not how the American experiment is supposed to work. The American experiment requires its citizens to be Robert De Niro. Thank you. I don't know why that failed me, obviously. It requires Americans to stand up. And Americans may say, well, what can we do? We feel helpless. It's not. You can do something. And it's up here on the screen. And it has to be a 28th Amendment. There are 27 amendments in the Constitution. The first 10 are the Bill of Rights, and then there's been 17 others. There has to be one more amendment, at least one more amendment, because that's the whole point of the Constitution. It's supposed to evolve. So if we want to change our lives, we're going to have to support a 28th Amendment that bans greed and influence. And if you don't realize it by now, that the greed and the influence in the political system is the cause of every single thing that's happening in our world. Everything that's happening comes back to that greed by the religious radicals, by the tech billionaires, by the foreign governments, by the scammers. Everyone is influencing our government except for us, except for ordinary citizens. And doing something extraordinary requires people, ordinary citizens, doing something long enough and consistent enough to be extraordinary. It's time and pressure. And in this case, it's a 28th Amendment that elections must be publicly funded by individuals, meaning human beings, American citizens, people. We know that corporations are not speech, and we're not talking about normal corporations. We're talking about the influence of political companies in the political system that are wrecking and destroying our way of life and wrecking and destroying the American or democratic republic. There's no one coming to save us, everybody. It's just a simple matter of what is that one thing. If you're old enough to remember City Slickers, and I should play that as a clip as well, what is the one thing that can change everything? The one thing that the vast majority of the population will rally behind. It's not something about immigration. It's not something about gun rights or whatever it is, whatever issue it is. It has nothing to do about any of those things. The one thing is corruption. It's, I just want a government that represents the people. It doesn't have to represent everything that I want. It needs to be where our government, meaning the legislative branch, the Congress, represents its constituents, not big oil, not big pharma, not the defense industry, not the foreign governments, not the religious radicals, not the tech billionaires. It can't be about any of that. This is a government for the people, by the people. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say anything about artificial entities or corporations. And the Bill of Rights certainly wasn't for giving rights and freedoms to companies. It was to give rights to individuals, to people, to citizens. So the extrapolation where the Supreme Court gave rights and freedoms to companies is constitutionally, in my purview, illegal. It was against the Constitution. There is no way that Citizens United in 2010, where corporations were considered persons and given the unlimited freedom of speech to spend as much money as they want to in elections, that is complete interpreted bullshit by the Supreme Court that was been manipulated by the same forces. It's complete garbage. We all know it. So I'm going to play the clip again. Again, this is going to be a short live. Let's play the clip to be a little inspiring today.
Got to tell everybody. We've got to remind them. We've got to remind them how good it is.
How good what is, Leonard?
Read the newspaper. What's it say? All bad. It's all bad. People have forgotten what life is all about. They've forgotten what it is to be alive. They need to be reminded. They need to be reminded about what they have and what they can lose. And what I feel is the joy of life, the gift of life, the freedom of life, the wonderment of life. We've got to tell everybody. We've got to remind them. We've got to remind them how good it is.
How good what is, Leonard?
Read the newspaper. What's it say? All bad. It's all bad. People have forgotten what life is all about. They've forgotten what it is to be alive. They need to be reminded. They need to be reminded about what they have and what they can lose. And what I feel is the joy of life, the gift of life, the freedom of life, the wonderment of life. We've got to tell everybody. We've got to remind.
All right, so that's the clip. I mean, that's what it has to be about. Hey, that's the clip. Absolutely. Thanks for sending that today. It's an awesome clip. It's really inspiring. Jay on Instagram says, society in general has been fixating on equating success with more wealth and stuff. Right. Life is not about wealth. Life is about people. It's about society and it's about our relationships. And of course, we need enough money to survive. But that's why our entire system is being manipulated by corrupt entities, corporations, political organizations, and foreign governments. I don't know how else to tell everybody that on a regular basis that it's the only solution that we have. And the rest of the world is waiting on America to step up and do something. We sometimes blame other people and other societies for not taking over their government and taking their government back. Like, what the fuck are we doing? What are the United States doing? Everyone on all of social media, on the right side and the left side, all they're doing is complaining. No one is providing solutions. And that's why I try and sit here and do these lives and do my videos to try and inspire people that there is one thing that we can do, and it has to be a popular movement to unite, to eliminate all the corruption and influences in our government. I don't know how much more clear I can make it. These are not just words. I want a government that's for the people, by the people, as it's intended to be, as it was designed, but it's been stolen from the United States. So for those of you that are foreigners like Swede and so forth, make no mistake, there are tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of Americans that want to do something. But we're all being polluted in our heads that we can't do anything. And it's a manipulation and it's an exploitation of Gen Z and millennials in my generation to think we can't do anything. These things are set in motion and we can't change things. That's not how America was designed. And that's not how every other generation before us has protected freedom, liberty, the rule of law. That has always been the responsibility of regular Americans, whether it's the Civil War, the voting rights era, the civil rights era, World War I, World War II. Americans have always stood up and said, I'm going to protect our freedoms. But right now we have a rogue government, a rogue administration that is destroying our freedoms and liberties. And there's only one way to take it back, and we may not be able to take it back that much longer, but it has to be united behind behind enacting and demanding a 28th Amendment. We have to eradicate all the money from the political system. The amount of money that's coming from evangelicals up into the Heritage Foundation, and the amount of influence that certain governments have that I won't even mention here is off the charts. And the amount of money, the $300 million SpaceX, Elon Musk donated to the Trump campaign. This is the poison. That is the cancer in the society. It's not anything else. As I often mention, every other issue that faces America can be resolved, and the world can be resolved as long as our representatives are representing the people. And then we can restore the current world order and make it strong again and kick out people like Stephen Miller and Steve Witkoff and Trump and all the nefarious forces that are behind Donald Trump, that are influencing him to tear down the entire world order. If he goes to take Greenland, and if for some reason we're ever to take Greenland, which what Russia wants us to do, that destroys and dissolves all of NATO in a heartbeat. It's gone. And our lives change forever. And it's nothing it may be nothing we can do about it then. Yes, pay to play politics, right? It is the root cause of everything, but no one talks about it. I mean, we need to talk about it more and more, not less. And very few people mention it. I'll just take a couple quick guests. What's up, Ray? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Hey, real quick.
Yep.
So, sadly, to pass any amendment, the people required to pass it, it has to go through the Senate and whatnot, and then to the states, are exactly the people you're trying to get out of the political system. So that's a non-starter. There are other things we can do.
Well, what is that other thing? First of all, it's not a non-starter, because if you had 50 or 60 million that demanded it, there are several ways you can demand it from the existing politicians or replace those politicians and replace them with politicians that would do exactly that. So it's all a matter of quantity of people, a popular movement. So people think, like you just suggested, you think it's a non-starter. It's not a non-starter, but it requires...
Well, it boils down, they're all bought and paid for. So it boils down to, can we raise enough money to buy and pay them to get themselves out of the system, right?
No, that's not how it works. Absolutely not. You want to raise enough money to buy them out of the system. So you want to use the broken system to leverage the broken system by using greed and influence to impact them to change it. That is absurd.
Well, how are you going to get elected politicians that are going to work against the current system?
You
How are you
repl-
going to fund that?
you replace them with a popular movement. Do you understand how do you think the voting rights era worked and the civil rights era worked? And it's movement of people. That's the thing that people in power always fear the most. It's not money in replacing them. You do have to replace them, but you don't have to replace them and use money to do it. Money is helpful. You're going to need money to get people on the ballot and so forth. So of course money plays a role, but not replacing them with money. If you have enough people, make it real simple. If you have enough people that support something and you need money to do something, you'll raise the money. The money is an afterthought. The money will certainly happen. You have to have the people that are inspired enough to do something first. The money will follow if you need it.
Remember, divided, we are conquered. Left and right are played against each other continuously. So maybe a better way to talk about this, we need a party in the middle for the 90% that agree on almost everything, as opposed to responding to the 5% on both sides.
That's right.
On the fringes.
My plan talks about exactly that. There are many ways to the actual method that you use, whether it's a third party or running independents or infiltrating an existing party and taking over that party or using the convention of states. There are a lot of different mechanisms that you can use, but all of them require the same thing, and that's obviously enough demand and enough support. But the actual mechanism is not that important yet.
Well, step one would be a party and, stopping the divide and conquer that we're under. And, all of the people that own social media pitch us against each other, right?
Of course, that's right. It's obviously, yeah, like you said, a divide and conquer strategy, right? You're being divided by talking about issues instead of talking about principles and fundamental and foundational things.
I have a suggestion about something that people care more than taking the money out of politics. Because most people worry more about their well-being and the well-being of their children. And I have a proposal in that space that actually might happen more likely and easier than what you're proposing. So people actually look at their pockets first before changing the political system, right? That's why Napoleon worried about the price of bread every day, that kind of stuff. So my proposal is simple. It would add no cost, other than some management cost, but it would not involve issuing more debt. The federal government owns a tremendous amount of land in every city, and military bases that were closed down, post offices, courts, but there's a tremendous amount of land ownership that are just assets owned by the federal government, managed by the Department of Interior, and now it's still pretty much an empty country, and basically the biggest issue that people are facing is living paycheck to paycheck, not being able to build an asset base. Home ownership, it was the way that people would be able to save. The nesting egg of most people was in home ownership.
So what's the solution? What are you proposing?
I'm proposing that every citizen, per the census, at some age of majority, could be 18, 21 or something, gets a grant to some land. It could be a fractional grant to some shared land to redevelop, but basically something worth between $250,000 to $500,000 of land that is already owned by the federal government. It would not add to the treasury. As a practical example, say you earned in this lottery, in this once in a lifetime thing for you, a fractional.
You are talking about a particular one issue. You're like suggesting one solution to solve problems. That doesn't eradicate the corruption from the system.
If you're able to make a down payment, your money goes towards paying a mortgage as opposed to going to forever sink it into rent, and hence you're not able to save. So if you earned the right to 1 out of 20 people that get to redevelop a post office, then you borrow against that right, then you build condominiums on top and you put a post office in the bottom, and now you own and you pay towards a mortgage. That is something that the current crop of politicians, we could get them to align behind if we pushed. So bringing basically the continuous deterioration of the working class and the lowest part of the middle class, even the poor, that's what's putting the country at most risk. is
Okay.
the
I respect
the
anyone that has a solution to help. That's an idea. Personally, I don't think that has any unless you could get that message out. I don't still relate to that message. It doesn't relate to me, and not relate to me. It doesn't. It's not inspiring. It doesn't solve the core problem of the system. It's a grandiose, even my plan is obviously grandiose, but my plan lies within the 28th Amendment, which is much more. People understand our government has been stolen from us by greed and money. You're proposing one solution to, and there's dozens, if not hundreds, of issues, and that's fine.
well,
But
if we have a new party in the middle, all of these things can be advocated, and we could get people on the left and the right to
right,
support
but you
some of
still
them.
have to raise enough support for whatever. You still need 50 million people to do something. So I would suggest that if you want to propose something, that you should try it. You should see if it sticks. You should see if you could grow an audience, because that's what politics is about. It's marketing and spreading a message of either hope or hate, and hopefully it's hope. So no one is going to stand up and promote your message better than you. So if you think your message can resonate with people, then go out and promote it.
Sure, I'm basically doing it, and by coming up here as a guest, I wanted to sense what you or your other guests felt about some more land redistribution, which is what it amounts to.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for joining. I appreciate you having you.
Okay,
We'll see
well,
you
have a
tomorrow.
good day. And good luck.
All right. You guys can respond to that in the comments. I know there's not that many people here. Land redistribution to everybody. You'd have to do the math on it. You have 370 million people. I don't think we have enough land. So, but you'd have to do the math. And to me, that doesn't resonate with me, but maybe it resonates to other people. What's up, Mr. G?
Yo, TK.
Just going to do a short live today. How are you today?
Well, I had a shorter day, so I saw you on and thought I'd pop in.
Yeah, that was thanks for sending the video. That's it's a great video. I wish more people were here to hear it. But I think sometimes we need a little bit more inspiration and a little bit less gloom and doom.
There's a lot of extra noise that's unnecessary, right?
Yeah, it really is.
And people, powers that be, kind of pushing the masses in different directions and kind of misleading people is kind of frustrating. I just had a little quick comment about the last guy. I think I kind of like the idea actually, but I think maybe it's towards the end of what you're trying to implement, right? I think the first foremost, like the most pressing issue are the two things that you've proposed here, right? But I think something along the lines of what he's describing could be something that could absolutely be beneficial, especially for the younger kids, right? The younger generation that's been completely snuffed out, intentionally or unintentionally or whatever. So I think he had a good heart and was trying to help. That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, I think so too. It's one issue. It's hard to even push back on it, knowing that how much land is there? Can you read? And you're talking about something that it's an issue. Like, I always railed against a particular issue because it's likely to divide a lot of people. So people with certain land, large property owners, again, it just, I don't know if it resonates. It does. He's right about everyone's worried about having enough money to be able to afford things and so forth. But I don't see how that galvanizes enough people. Even
Sure.
something like
yeah, you're right. No, you're right. Your overall message is who's the guy? Who's the guy, or the girl, the person, or robot at this point that's going to get everybody to clan or to join hands together and try to move forward and put our differences aside, right?
Right.
That's not that, right? That's more or less just like a logical, perceptive take on what could be to help people, I guess, in a way. So
I just always want to go higher level, as you know, is that it's not about figuring out the issues, because none of us are going to do that. That's what we're supposed to have representation for. So it has to be about whatever the individual solutions are for the hundreds, if not thousands, of issues that we have. can't be decided by the masses. We're not a direct democracy, where all we're trying to do is get our representatives to actually do their job, which is represent us. And then through that mechanism, those things start to get fixed, whatever those solutions might be. That's not for us to determine, because that's just a rabbit's hole that you can never come out of, right? And that's, you know my position. So I know I'm just repeating it to you, but also repeating it to the other people that are here.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. So, it's frustrating at times, right? Well, it's a daily thing at this point. Every day you wake up, you get to start anew, start afresh, and you're kind of reminded constantly that well, the ball is not rolling, or maybe it is rolling in an unseen way.
Right. It starts really slow, maybe, and who knows? All you can do is, someone made the quote the other day, people who do extraordinary things are just doing ordinary things consistently, right? And that ends
That's
up being
great. I
extraordinary.
like that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
And that's how anything like that happens. All right, last guest here, Brooks, and then I'm gonna just was meant to be a short live this morning since I missed my normal time. How are you, Brooke?
I'm just dealing right now in America, this triple K society, which is very disturbing. And I think the missing component is love and empathy. And I'm not saying give love or empathy to the red hate society. I'm not saying that. But I think with there being a loneliness epidemic and a wealth gap, speaking as a former reference librarian, I look at all across America, we don't really have real community on the physical plane. It's all about and shitty education. It's all funded by zip code. So if you're in the right zip code, that's a lottery ticket. So if you happen to mate with the right one, but that does not love. So all we have is a society, unfortunately, of human doings. We have the Stepford Wives in the Truman Show with 9 perfect strangers in the Twilight Zone on Groundhog Day getting dangerously close to Mad Max Thunderdome. And like I trained at Second City, so I'm trained in comedy, but it's not, I'm not really trying to be funny. I'm trying to get to closer to the issue. So if the wealth gap is 300% to 8,500%, and most people don't have $1,000 for an emergency, like in the 90 percentile, that means we are at risk for disease. We are at risk for domestic violence, which is what we're seeing in these ICE agents doing things to people. So think about you're the domestic partner of an ICE agent. What kind of intimacy would you have? And the answer is you wouldn't. So then we've got to get to, I'm really interested in root causes. Without community building and without rituals, which would look like anything without a screen, building with love, empathy, and all 5 senses, paying it forward. So things like community murals, a pay it forward restaurant, like I'm buying myself a coffee and I'm going to put one on, like something on a menu, a pay it forward item. And then at the discretion of myself or the person behind the counter, they buy that person a coffee or whatever. Community gardens. In my town, we have love fridges where there's a refrigerator people can put things in and a pantry. And I'm in the town where the reparations started for Black people. I'm in the town where Meghan Markle and Colbert went to school. But yet in this same town, 30% of our population has no internet, which is a class marker for lack of wealth. So with all this wealth, there's also not that because we have financial racism. So until we can look at further that if we have a loneliness epidemic, which we do, and there's an 82-page Health and Human Services report by the former U.S. Surgeon General. 170 million of us have 0 to 2 friends. Let that sink in. How do you make a friend, do a business deal, get a job, or fall in love with that? And everybody looking at their screens or looking angry won't even look up to think, like, how can we share? So I'm looking at, how do we get together a group of loving, kind souls to say, read the human energy. What do you need? Do you need a friend, a job? Are you looking to date? Whatever it is, how can we pull together as a society, leaving behind anybody in that red hate society? Because they're backstabbers. And it's going to ruin the economy, because if you have people who don't even have a friend, get no human touch, no hand holding, no hugs, no kissing, no adult activities, which Scott Galloway at Columbia University is talking about the intimacy recession, that he's saying we are planning our own extinction.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So,
couple of things though.
yeah.
I agree. Almost 100% with what you say. Right.
I've deeply studied this. I have receipts. So
Sure, and I'm not saying you don't, right? And you don't even need receipts for that. You don't have to. That's not something you need to research. Like, that to me is like common sense, right?
no, but it's good to have the numbers and
That's true.
anyway.
Well,
Go ahead.
that's for people who are keeping score. And I'm not trying to pit you. I'm not trying to come at you in a different direction, really. I'm just saying I agree.
Yeah.
And how do you prevent nefarious people from? I don't know. I think there's evil afoot.
Oh,
And
it's demonic energy, and I'm like looking
Yeah.
at this, talking to people across the board.
Yeah, it's evil, right? But at the end of the day, like, where do you start?
I think it starts with a conversation of people saying, "This is what's happening," and to know that if we keep this up, we have
And just an
time
acknowledgement
bombs.
of it.
Well, that's the starting point, because these days we all may need the company of strangers. Like, I really basically have nobody, and I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to who are in the same boat. We're acting like it's a cancer, but if you don't start with socially, emotionally, spiritually, and I'm not talking religion, connecting with someone, you can't get to a consent of giving someone a hug or kissing them or anything more. And then on the other end of it, you've got all these creepy people talking about body count and sleeping around and all, graping, P3POing, all that stuff. It's disgusting.
Sure.
And it's going to mean, okay, so you've got people in workplaces, and what I've heard from a large sample size across Chicago, because of my interviews, people are going 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years with no intimacy. No one who gets them. They're in a dead marriage. They're not on the same, what I would call, emotional, spiritual radio station. And without looking at these things, we cannot stop the violence. If I don't start the conversation and say, "Hey, look, I got a table in the middle of the street in downtown where I am, in a big university town. What do you got? Who's looking for what?" With the ability to read human energy. And that, because we're sending out signals from our heart. It's been studied now by Stanford, that says somebody's safe or not.
Well, Brooke, what I'd interject is, it starts with hope, right? People need to have hope. And we live, like you said, the radio broadcasting something to that reference. We live in a digital world. We're consuming an enormous amount of content. That content is manipulating people, and most of that content is pitting people, men versus women, red versus blue, right versus left, all this stuff. So that is tearing ourselves down mentally. There's no hope because there's so much negative energy. Basically what you mentioned is this negative energy, and you can't do it at just the local level. There has to be inspiration online, on digital media, because that's the only way to give people hope. And also everything comes back to politics. Everything in your life comes back to politics, and to some degree, everything around you is impacted by politics. So when I try and, promote inspiration or hope, I provide a solution. Like, what's the thing that starts the spark, whether it's JFK or whether it was Lincoln or it was FDR, like someone's got to be a leader either in the political realm or in the social realm, in the civil rights movement. Of course, right? You had people that inspired people to want to rise up and change their lives, and you're not seeing that in the world. So I don't know what
Right.
the solution is to each one of those specific issues, like what you're talking about. They're all real. I get it. I think you're right about all of them, but it starts with hope. In my view, it starts with providing some sort of light to people, and politics is always, and civics is always a part of that.
And I would say, I get that, but I would change the word from hope to a vision or a dream, because hope means it may or may not happen. So that means I'll hope for a birthday cake if I'm 5 years old, and presents and a party, but I may or may not get it.
Oh, I'm not
Hope is not
suggesting it's just hope. Like, yeah, there's a vision, and I have it up on the screen.
right.
Right. There's a vision of how you fix things, and it's preventing the people that are exploiting all of us. It's all
Right.
the influencers that are doing all the things that you mentioned to us. So you need to eliminate them.
Yes, and I agree with all the things you're saying, except I would change out the word hope to something else that's more like the law of assumption, that beyond the law of attraction, that something else better is going to happen because we're putting our heart and soul and getting the message out there, and people are like, yeah, I'll do that with you. So it's kind of like, if I look at you as a guy, I'm at a cafe, and I used to go to this place. I sensed with this guy that there was an attraction, but he wouldn't approach me. He wouldn't even meet me halfway. So, and women won't flirt with men who won't even meet us halfway because of too many reasons why. So it's got to be beyond the stage of hope, because that's just in your mind. It may or may never happen if we don't get it to the implement. I don't know what the word is beyond hope, but something where it's, you don't hope you're going to eat dinner tonight. You're going to eat dinner tonight. It's got to be some sort of more powerful word charge. And I'm really careful about, and I'm not saying you're not, but language. Like, what is that word going to get you? Is it going to get you?
No, I rarely use the word hope. Hope is a feeling. Inspiration is a feeling that we all have when someone is sending the right signals and someone is providing a solution that actually can change the world. Hope is the thing that you feel. Like, I don't sit here on these lives telling people to be, there needs to be more hope and you need to be hopeful. Like you mentioned, that's just a fleeting feeling, and you need to be inspired to actually feel like that. So I'm not someone that,
Right.
I talk about solutions. It's inspiring people to know that they can change their lives. We can all, as a society, change the political system. That's my motive. You obviously are taking a different sort of approach to things and how you view things. But what I try and do on this account is to let people know that people come together. They want to change the
Yes.
political system. They can do
I
it.
love it.
That's
Yes.
all I can do. Like, that's the thing that's most relevant
Of
to me.
course. Of course. I'm only adding to that to say, like, at a certain point when you decide somebody's your friend, or that's whatever, the love of your life, if you're in that category like myself, you're like, let's go. And how do you tap into that reading of human energy to know, hey, we're on the same emotional spiritual radio station. Maybe you've got railroad ties and Mr. Global has chicken wire, and you decide, look, we're building a place to raise chickens in the middle of our town. And that solves part of the egg crisis. And it also gets people together. Maybe that is something that makes people make friends, fall in love, do a business deal, because you're like, hey, we know that these things are going on. There's financial racism. There's a